This is Sawyer Robertson, and you're listening to the Bearcast on SicEm365.com.
Welcome into the Bearcast on SicEm365.com, presented by WellMed Medical Management and Barefoot Campus Outfitter. Head on over to Barefoot Campus Outfitter in Waco, or go to the website and use SicEm365 as your code to save 20% off your purchase. Today, I'm joined by Colt Barber as we go through our Big 12 best bets for the week. But first, like we always do, let's go through how the week went. We were 500 on the week, Colt. Both of us went 2-2. Your misses were Houston at Arizona State. You took Arizona State minus 7.5. They ended up losing that game 24-16. You also missed on Baylor at Cincinnati over 67.5. They only scored 61. But you hit on the over 49.5 in BYU at Iowa State. They combined to score 68 points in that game. And then Colorado at Utah hit as well. Utah hit it for you just by themselves. The over-under was 49.5, and the final score is 53-7. So 2-2 on the week, 19-16. What did you think about your week that was?
Yeah, I mean, the Utah game went exactly how I expected. I thought Utah was just going to score a ton of points, and Colorado might get a score or two that gets them over. But yeah, nothing too impressive. 2-2. I mean, you're breaking even. Actually losing a little bit if you're actually betting on these games. But yeah, whatever. I mean, the Baylor game killed me, and as we talked about just a minute ago, 20 points from the offense when you expect them to put up at least 30. That kills any bet that you had on them for an over.
Absolutely does. For me, on the other hand, my hits were over 56.5 for Kansas State and Kansas. Final score is 42-17. Man, hot start. It was like 35 points in the first half, and it really cooled down and almost missed on the over in that one. Also hit on the over 49.5 with BYU and Iowa State, the same bet that you had. I missed on Baylor at Cincinnati, the over 67.5, and I also missed on TCU minus 15.5. They only won by 6. They were up by like 13 for a lot of that game, but West Virginia ended up making it closer late. So 2-2, 16-20 on the season. Need to do better here. Need to make up some ground, Colt. So where do you want to start this week in the Big 12?
Yeah, I'm actually going to switch it up on you. I know we kind of already talked about these off before we start recording. I'm going to start with Arizona at Colorado. Current over under is 52.5. I was going with the under, but I just think that the game's going to go over. Like 52.5 is a really low number. And I'm looking just at Arizona in the last 3 games. They've scored 59 total points, obviously 59, 60, and 54. And that 54 was against Oklahoma State, who only scored 13 points. I don't think Colorado's defense is that good. It's good or it's okay, but I just think this is a game both of these teams really need to win. And I think they're going to go and score points. And it's going to kind of teeter up to there. But like 26-26 is putting you right at that line. 27-24 is right at that line. And I think you'll get a little bit more than that. So I'm going to go with the over in that game, Arizona at Colorado.
That's right on the fringe for me, I think, in that game, because I've seen so many of these Arizona games be just kind of these defensive slugfests so far this year. A little worried about that. I think you might be regretting that next week.
That's the one. That's what I was feeling, and I was like, I'm going with the under on that. But the last time, I mean, even going to the Iowa State game, that was a 53-point game total. The Kansas State game was the weird one. That was 40 points, the really low one. And Kansas State ultimately won it. But since then, they've been over 52 or over 52.5 in all of their other games. So I'm going to ride that, and I think Colorado will score points on their Arizona. That their defense is probably the bigger reason that I was going to go. I just think for 52.5 is really low. So we'll see what happens.
Real quick, Sawyer Robertson has something to remind you about.
Want the latest information about your favorite team? Try out SicEm365 premium content the next 3 months for just $5 by clicking the link below.
And now back to the Bearcast. Okay, for my first one, I'm going to take us to Ames. Arizona State travels to Iowa State. Iowa State's a 7.5-point favorite. The over-under is 48.5. I'm taking Iowa State in this game, minus 7.5. I don't know what Sam Levitt is looking like for this week, but I kind of have a feeling he's not going to play.
I think he's out. Yeah.
And if he's not playing, I do not see Jeff Sims going into Ames and finding a way to get Arizona State a win. So, yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I think Iowa State probably wins this game by 2 scores, maybe even by 14, 17 points.
Yeah, with him out, like that's a game I might just pick the under.
Yeah,
Arizona State's defense is good enough.
Is it?
I'm saying good enough
Without
to get
Levitt?
the under. No, Arizona. No, not to win. Not to win. Arizona State's defense is good to corral Iowa State, and then Arizona State's not going to score a lot of points. So, like, I'm looking at that 48.5, thinking this might be a 24-7 type game.
Could be. Very well could be. I'm looking more at, like, the time that he was out in that Houston game. Houston kind of took it to him a little bit. And then, obviously, in the Utah game without Sam Levitt, they got blown out. And so, I don't know. It's just a vibe that I'm getting that Iowa State's going to win this game rather easily. Because like you said, 24-7, that's an easy cover for me at -7.5. I mean,
yeah. But I'm just looking at the under. You're really far into the under. Like, this might be a double dip. Like, I might put this as my bonus for this year is this under. Yeah, put me down for that. I want Arizona State, Iowa State under 48.5.
Oh, man. Colt's making my job a lot harder. But,
yeah.
All right.
You do these. You do them to me. I think you got one on me earlier this year. So
I did. I'm about to get another one on you today as well. I will allow it this week. Colt, where do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm going to go team that Baylor just saw, Cincy at Utah. I don't think I like Utah's defense. I think they're a little overvalued. Like, if you just look at the numbers, I think they're a little overvalued in some key areas, and I like Cincy's offense. Like, I think they have a really good offense. The over and under here is 55.5. If you look at Utah in three games outside of the BYU game, they've scored 48, 42, and 53 points. That's after Tech, excluding Tech and BYU. I think Cincinnati's defense is more in the lines of Colorado, Arizona State, West Virginia. I know Arizona State game was a little bit fishy without Sam Levitt. But I think they're going to score points, and I think that Cincinnati's going to score points because they're a good offense. And so it might be a situation where Utah gets out and Cincy can't stop them, vice versa, and kind of runs that score up. But 55.5, I mean, you're looking at a 28-28 game, and I don't think that's unreasonable at all.
I love it because we're battling on this one. So I'm going to make up some ground here. I have the under 55.5. I think that you look at these games, you look at the games that Utah's blown out, it's against bad teams or a team without their quarterback. Against the good teams, look at the Tech game. I mean, they got blown out in that game, and really the indicative thing about that game is how low scoring it was when the game mattered. Like, when it was competitive, it was low scoring. And I think in this game, you're going to see two pretty good defenses, two defenses that are particularly really good in the red zone. And I think that's going to drive this number down some. I think you'll see some field goals here that will keep this score low. Yeah. I'm expecting it to be somewhere around the range of like a 24-21, a 27-24 type game. And so that will hit the under.
Yeah. So the one caveat to this, and we're going to take it off, is if what's his name doesn't play. I mean, if Dampier is limited in this game, we'll have to remove it because he didn't play. He didn't play.
He's got to not play for this to count. Not limited, because you can't go into the game and then with that caveat.
We don't know.
If he plays,
I hadn't thought about that because they played the backup quarterback, and truthfully, it might be a better option. But the backup quarterback rushed for 151 yards against Colorado. Rushed for 100, had 140 passes. True freshman kid. Yeah, I had forgotten about that when I was going through these picks. So, yeah, we'll see. I still like the over though. Like I think Cincinnati's defense is good. I think Utah has the recipe for scoring in the red zone because of the quarterback position. Baylor was never going to use that with Sawyer Robertson, and they did actually use it a little bit more in that game, raw numbers wise. But I don't trust the Cincy defense nearly as much in the red zone against a running quarterback. So we'll see. I'll stick with it at the over 55.5.
Okay, at my next pick here, Texas Tech travels to Manhattan to take on Kansas State. The over-under 7.5, or I'm sorry, Texas 7.5 point favorite. The over-under is 52.5. I am very high on taking the over here.
Yeah,
I think
like
Kansas State's offense is very undervalued because of the way they looked early in the season. They're starting to score on people and score pretty consistently.
As they expected, yeah.
Right, as they expected to, and their run defense still stinks, and Tech can run the football. And so I really think that this is going to be a in the 30s type game. I feel pretty good about this one hitting the over. This is actually this was my favorite bet of the week was this game. And so I'm going to take the over there. We'll see, what's going on with Tech's quarterback position. That could be something that throws a wrench in this.
Yeah, if Morton's still hurt. They're
going
to play him
for the year, right?
Hammond's done for the year, and Morton's been really kind of strangely. They've talked about his injury, but no one really knows exactly what it is. So I like the over, though. I think that Kansas State's not. I mean, they played better defense against Kansas, and really for the last 3 weeks, going back to the Baylor game, I thought they've played decent defense. I thought that they did some things better than they had early. But their offense is what's carried them. So I like the over here. And we're going to find out a lot about Tech again.
Mm-hmm.
Like they lost at Arizona State, but then they bounced back. And who did they play last week?
Oklahoma State.
Scored a million points.
Yeah.
So their Tech's next 2 games, I mean, at Kansas State versus BYU, like the Kansas State game dropped off for them because of the way they played early. Kansas State, what played early, is not the same Kansas State team right now. This is a little bit trickier than probably people realize for Tech. It's going to be crazy at Kansas State after winning 2 out of 3 games, or what is it? Hold on, I got to pull it up.
There's a little bit of juice there for sure. Ever since losing
3 of 4, they've won 3 of 4. They beat up on Kansas and beat up on TCU.
Yeah.
I mean, the
coming
TCU game
home
wasn't
after
close.
the Kansas game where you beat a rival, I think fans are going to be a little more bought in because of that performance for sure.
Yeah, it should be a buzz. I like the over on that one too.
Yeah, that should be very interesting. Colt, where do you want to go next? I think you got one more listed here.
Yeah. So I got another.
We both
over.
have this one. Yeah,
another over with what I consider pretty bad defenses in general with Kansas and Oklahoma State. So I'm going over 56.5. I think this is a game where Kansas, considering they just lost, they have a senior quarterback with Jalen Daniels. They've lost 3 of 4 actually, but they've only scored 17 points in the last 2 games, 34 combined points in the last 2. I think they're going to play Oklahoma State at home and just score 1 billion points. So I'm going with the over. I think Jalen Daniels wants that. And truly, like looking at their schedule, they have versus Oklahoma State, at Arizona, at Iowa State versus Utah. If they want to get to a bowl game, they're going to have to play probably really well the next 2 games because they're not beating Utah at home. And at Iowa State's really tricky. So they're going to have to get it right now. And so I take the over because of that specifically. And I think Oklahoma State gets some garbage time points, maybe like a 45-14 type game.
Yeah, this is a get right spot for Kansas for sure. And I don't even think they'll get fully right, but they're going to be upset after the loss to Kansas State. Their offense just has malfunctioned a couple times. It's like strong start, and then they just stink for the rest of the game. Against Oklahoma State, it's a very nice spot for them to actually be able to run the football. And when Kansas has run the football well this year, they've scored a lot of points. And so I fully expect them to score upwards of 40. And like you said, Oklahoma State's going to probably score a couple touchdowns in this game, I would think. Kansas's defense is really, really bad. It's not as bad as Oklahoma State's, and it's not as bad as Baylor's, but after those 2, it's like right there.
Yeah, it's there for sure. So I guess I'll move us into the Baylor game here. I'll just start this one off. I got my 4th over here. all overs this week, so we'll see. I think overs pay off pretty well in the Big 12. But Baylor versus UCF, 59.5. I'm going with the over. I think Baylor's going to be desperate offensively. I think UCF's going to score points. And, I mean, when are you not going to take the over in the Baylor game this year? I mean, I think the only one was the Arizona State game, or did it hit in the over then?
That didn't hit the over, and then it's Cincy last week because the offense malfunctioned.
Yeah, so I'm going over 59.5 for Baylor and UCF.
Yeah, man, this one's kind of tricky for me because if Baylor doesn't show up, then it's probably going to hit the under. And so that's kind of the scary part. But I think in general, I expect UCF to score 30. I expect Baylor to score around 30. And so that gets you kind of right around this number. So I'm going to take the over here. I think it's going to be somewhat like a 31-30, 33-31 type game is kind of the way that I look at it.
High efficiency scoring.
Probably. And you just need UCF to hit explosive runs instead of just running the clock out. That's really what you need is them to score quickly. And then you need Baylor to find a way to score in the red zone. Those two things you need to happen here. So yeah, I'm going to take the over 59.5. I don't feel amazing about it, but in this, I guess with this season, it's definitely the better play for Baylor this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch the line at all. Baylor's 1-7 against the spread this year. So
crazy.
Make you feel good.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So that's it for this week on our Big 12 Best Bets. We'll be back next week to recap the UCF game and talk about all things going forward with Baylor as it's a bye week next week. Bears have an off week before facing Utah. Thanks, everyone, for listening. This has been the Bearcast on SicEm365.com.
Join Sikkim 365 Premium on a $1 for 1 month trial to read our experts' notes and insights. Know about high school commits, off-season transfers, coaching staff changes, and so much more before the rest. Also, download the Sikkim 365 app on your iPhone today to get instant notifications of breaking news, read up on the latest inside info, easily interact with other Baylor fans on our forums, and get alerts for anything published by your favorite staff members.